Welcome to the ninth BW Hotelier show on web, our um, latest series of WebBlasts. This one is touchless with perhaps the biggest names the industry has to afford. All the nine gentlemen that you see on screen are icons in their own space. They lead the pack. And also, this is our 86th show from the BW Business World Group, and we're delighted to have all these gentlemen here. We're excited. Let me briefly introduce the panel. BC, as we call Biswajit Chakrabarti, who is the General Manager Delegate for the Pullman Novotel. He is a veteran hotelier. He's done the Sofitel, he's done the Leela. He's now in his own space in Delhi for almost 2 years, BC? No, 1 year. 1 year.
Just over a year.
We have Arindam Kunar, Vice President Operations, Fortune Park Hotels, another big hotelier, big name, very good, grounded professional. We have Zubin Sungadwala, another big name, right? He's now out of Chennai. He was heading the west for ITC. Before that, he was up north heading the iconic Moria. A strong personality in his own name. And then you have Tarjinder Singh, the genial Sikh from Shimla. Amazing personality who leads the Taj Mumbai. In his own right, a lot of credentials behind him, solid experience. He heads the selections and Mumbai hotels. We have Julian Ayers, who heads the Hyatt Regency in Delhi. Great amount of international exposure. He heads the north of India as the area vice president and the general manager for the hotel. We have I think, in my view, Vijay would be the senior most hotelier here today. Vijay Vachu. He's the Senior Executive Vice President and General Manager for the Imperial. Amazing property and great experience. We have the handsome young man, Ruben Kataria, who heads the JW Marriott in Bangalore. Before that, he was in Egypt. We have Sanjay Gupta, who heads the Le Meridien in Gurugram. Calcutta boy, great experience. Now, I want to say a couple of things. BW Hotelier has done a lot of shows. We have another big one coming on 21st with the PR and corporate communication ladies. This is a pink show, women's special. We're doing quite a lot of good stuff, but remember, as we do a lot of content, there are people who are plagiarizing. So this message goes, if you want to write about these shows in your products, in your coverages, do that. Give credit to BW Hotelier. Don't clear out our names. After all, the world reads what they write and where it comes from. Be there. And over to you, BC. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Khanna. And a big thank you to all of you at BW Hotelier to bring us onto this very, very special platform. It gives the industry a huge window in times like this. And I'm delighted to have this panel here, very well put together. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just take about 5 minutes to quickly introduce the panel a little further so that everybody gets to know them a little more. They are well known. Anyway, I'm just adding. So Zubin Songadwala, he's the area head south for ITC Hotels and the general manager of the ITC Grand Chola. He's an alumnus of the Hotel Management School in Mumbai, ITC school, and he's been a lifer with ITC Hotels. I've known him for many, many years, and I just remember ITC. He has a great passion for open roads, loves his motorcycling and classic cars. On the weekend, you'll see him right there. So welcome, Zubin. Okay. Now, Arindam Kunar, who's the big boss of operations of Fortune Park Hotels. Delighted to have him here. He's mandated with the overall operations and performance of all the hotels in his portfolio to enhance stakeholder value. Arindam is an alumnus of the Hotel Management School in Pusa. He's worked with Choice Hotels, Hyatt, Taj, IHG. He was awarded the General Manager of the Year for Crown Plaza brand across Asia and Middle East. And he's specialized in rooms, after which he honed his skills in revenue management. And now we move on to my friend Taljinder. He's the Senior Vice President Selections and General Manager of the iconic Taj Mumbai. You can see it on the backdrop. I've known him for a long time. He's also an IHCL lifer. Recently, he got featured amongst the top 32 luxury hoteliers in Rahim Kainani's publication, Lead the Taj Mahal Palace to be #1. And he's a very soft-spoken, fabulous hotelier. He also heads the team led to create IHCL's latest brand Selections, which is a fabulous collection of luxury hotels. And he heads the entire West. Then we come to my friend Julian Ayers. Julian, this is your second stint in India, if I'm not mistaken. Julian is the big boss and the area vice president north of Hyatt, and he's the general manager of the Hyatt, the iconic Hyatt Regency in Delhi. He brings with him over 20 years of experience. He's British born and has a wealth of experience in various international management assignments in India, Oman, Indonesia, Caribbean, and the UK. He's a graduate of the Suffolk College. In addition to his responsibilities, he oversees the entire north and parts of west of the Hyatt. So a very warm welcome, Julian.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. Vijay Vanchu, as Bhuvi mentioned, he is probably the senior most amongst us in terms of experience. He heads the iconic Imperial, a hotel, I think one of my favorite hotels. He's an alumnus of St. Columba School and IHCL Pusa. He is one of the stalwarts of the industry who's been spearheading operations there for over 11 years. He's worked as a kitchen trainee at Oberoi Hotels. He's been a chef. He's been an F&B instructor at the Oberoi School of Hotel Management. He's worked at the Lalit. He's worked at the Fortune Group of Hotels. And now he heads one of the finest hotels in the country. He's also won several awards as the Inspiring Hotel Leader, Lifetime Achievement Award, and Leaders of the Decade in Hospitality. Now we come to the younger guys amongst us. We have Ruben Kataria, as who we was mentioning. He's the general manager of the JW Marriott in Bengaluru. He brings 25 years of experience with an impeccable track record and with his vast experience and knowledge in the industry. So he oversees operations and management of this beautiful hotel in Bengaluru overlooking the Cubbon Park. He's been associated with Hyatt Hotels in the Oberoi Group for many years. He's specialized in food and beverage and then in all sorts of other areas. So very, very warm welcome, Ruben.
Thank you.
Then my old friend Sanjay, we have worked together in Oberoi Hotels many moons ago. Sanjay comes from a very strong F&B background as well. He's an alumnus of St. Xavier's College and Institute of Hotel Management, Kolkata. One of the most passionate hoteliers I have seen, and he's really scaled up across various assignments. And this is his second Meridian, which he's handling, or third?
This is my third Meridian.
Third Meridian, yeah. So he is a Meridian specialist, Meridian being one of the oldest brands. So once again, a very warm welcome, gentlemen. Delighted to have you on board. And these are times which are challenging, but I think there is immense positivity now. And that is what I think all of us are expected to take forward. Hoteliering, as you know, innkeeping is the oldest industry in the world. And today, it's gone leaps and bounds in technology. It's kept pace with any other industry. It's been home to business captains. It's been home to holiday makers. It's across every continent, every country. It is brick and mortar, and it will never die out, come what may. And I think I'm very, very positive, and that's what we're going to emphasize on. The topic for today, the WebBlast, is going touchless. It's an interesting word, going touchless. All of you will expand and give you a version on it, but there are so many connotations. So we're going to begin this. The whole session would be about 90 minutes. And I'm going to ask random questions straight away, and I'll pick people at random. These are all my old friends, so they would give me that liberty, right, gentlemen? So let me start with I'm missing Mumbai a lot, and I see Taljinder right there, my old buddy. So let me start with you, Taljinder. You know, when you look at touchless hospitality, which people are talking about in the future because of these times, hoteliers are remodeling their SOPs and with a special focus on safety. Tell us briefly about the new SOPs which you at the Taj have adopted and how things are going to pan out. Your time starts now.
Yeah, Bishwajit. So the adaptation of all our new SOPs is not without obviously the assistance of technology, and technology will play a large part as we go forward in the current times. So incorporation of technology in terms of pre-arrival formalities, making sure that all the pre-arrival formalities are complete. Upon arrival, again, use of technology to make sure that guests do not have to actually get into a lot of contact with the staff which is there to receive them at the hotel. And then, of course, onward to the room where use of technology again will plays a large part in the new SOPs. Is in essence what will constitute the arrival process. During the stay, again, we may say touchless, but at the end of the day, we are Indian Hotels Company Limited. We are known to be a brand which has a lot of warmth. So touchless it will be, but not without heart. And technology it will be, but not without tradition. So those are the things that we continue to focus on. And even in terms of whether it's servicing of the rooms or service in restaurants, use of technology will continue to play an important part with QR coded menus, with making sure that only one individual at a time services the requirements of the guests so that contact is minimal but not absent. And at the end of the day, the warmth does need to come through in everything that we do. And that's the aspect of Tajness that we continue to focus on. When we design any SOP, that is the one consideration that underlines the SOP itself, that is the aspect of our business that we should not lose. So that is the care that we are taking, in other words.
Thank you so much. I guess, this would be the underlying thing, the hospitality, the warmth. Even at Accor, we will be coming out with our safety all safe, and that balance has to be struck. So now I will move on to another topic, and I'm going to request my friend Zubin from the South to answer this question. Amongst the top concerns of hotel owners is ROI. Everybody, ROI, privately also it's ROI. How do you convince them on business continuity, sustaining the team, and ROI? This is a key question, and Angad, over to you.
First of all, namaste everybody. And I'm actually glad to see most of the world has now switched to the iconic logo of ITC Hotels, Namaste, which comes from the heart. And it just goes to show that somewhere that aspect of hospitality and the Indian warmth of Indian hospitality has come back. And while we may say that we're all wearing masks, the Namaste cannot be masked. So I would say, as far as, and not just with owners, but with our own properties as well, what is key is, and the owners do it much better than we are able to do it, and that is, of course, have a very, very fine eye and a very conscious look at the cost parameters. But one thing is very important, and that's something that we always have been propagating. You can cut the fat, but don't cut the muscle. What the mistake that many people do is cut the muscle all the way down to the bone. And then when it's time for revival, when revival comes about, it's very difficult to get going again. So as far as our ROIs are concerned, everybody knows that, and it's something that any person who has got the acumen for business knows, that there are certain investments that you have to make to be able to get the business back. There are certain technological interventions, as was said earlier by Rajinder. There are certain safety aspects. There are certain infrastructure that is going to be coming up in various hotels. And these are investments that you need to make to gain the confidence of the guest. If you're not able to gain the confidence of the guest, you can forget about getting the guest back. You can forget about being in the business anymore. Most of the owners who we have are in it for, or who we have tied up with an asset right strategy. I won't call it the asset light strategy only, but an asset light is the ones who are in it for the long term. And when you're in it for the long term, you know that whatever investment you're going to make today is going to be able to get you the returns as you go forward. So it is critical that we invest in the PPE that we have to. You invest in the kind of equipment that you need for the sanitization and disinfection. You invest in the kind of in the staff as well, so that you ensure that they stay with you when it's time, when time is right to get your operations going again, time for revival, time for thriving, etc. Going forward. So these are investments you cannot lose out on. In fact, in ITC hotels, we have gone to the extent of making investments in our associates to house them in the hotel throughout the lockdown period, to ensure that they are, to a large extent, or I would say entirely barricaded from the outside world and insulated from any chance of getting an infection. And then when we are dealing with each guest and when we're interacting with each other as well, the premise is very clear that you're interacting with somebody, keeping in mind not social distancing, but safe distancing. And that's how it is that we would be able to go forward in our business. That's the only way forward today. Invest at the right time, for the right reason, for the right return, and go on with your operations in the way that we know best as hoteliers.
Thank you, Zubin. I think that was very well articulated. Again, you've balanced it very well between people, product, process, safety, profits. I guess the world has to now get used to lesser numbers. Things aren't going to be the same. I think in everybody's opinion, if you look at 2019 figures, it would probably happen in 2022 or 2023. But otherwise,
yeah.
Now, a very interesting question, which I will direct to Mr. Vijay Vanchu. If you look at the on-ground arrangements, which can be made to ensure contactless, touchless for guests, how would your hotel adapt to this? What on-ground arrangements are you making to, do this? This is a very different question. So, please.
Thank you, Vish. See, if you look at the hotel industry 30, 40 years back, we had technology, but minimalistic technology. Today, technology is reaching to another level. And I believe it's important to have technology, yet all this is useless if you do not have the right people, the right attitude, and the right training for your staff to handle that technology. Of course, there will be touchless check-ins and elevator, there'll be billing, which will be just at the command of an app. All this is going to happen, the restaurant, the menus with apps, etc. But like Zubin also said, we cannot lose that personalization, when we set about doing whatever we are doing. At the moment, there's an overdose of information, I believe, personally. There's a lot of information floating in the market. And I think every hotel has to decide for itself what they have to do. Yet, the basic infrastructure will have to be there. What I'm trying to say is that at the time the reservation happens, the guest makes a reservation, the confidence of the guest has to start building from right there. And at the time you are picking up the customer from the airport, I think that's the first human contact that the guest is going to have. So that's where the technology will start coming in. And the cars, the sanitization of the cars, the screen in between the driver and the guest, and the training of the driver, the chauffeur who will have to inspire confidence into the customer. And then you come in and, when after 26/11, sadly, till that time, there was no security checks in the hotels. And then we had to put in all the X-ray machines and physical frisking. Here also, one has to be very careful in how you execute that process. Now, as a guest checks into the porch, again, you got to, frisk him, but can you really frisk him physically now with all this contact issue? I think that's where the technology will really play a big part. And as you walk in, now let me talk about the Imperial. The Imperial is a very traditional, hotel. We have always kept technology away from the lobby. For instance, you will not find a TV screen in my lobby. We would have simple signages, very nicely done. But now imagine my reception counter having screens in the middle. Now that's really taking away the personalization from the guest, but yet it is important. And I'm hoping this won't be too long. Personally, I feel, at some stage we should plan something in a way that after a year, 2 years, we don't need all this. Hopefully, we don't know. We don't know which way we will go.
Right.
The lockdown has been there for the last 117 days or so in Delhi. And we have ever since been planning our SOPs and our requirements and our training for getting into this new normal. But I'm hoping there'll be a time when we get back into the old normal where, we go back to our personal, regular SOPs. However, till now, it's very important to understand that a customer, like Zubin said earlier, he will never gain the confidence if you do not give him the basic infrastructure and the communication. So what is very important is to communicate everything that you're doing to the customer, but not just communicate, actually put that into practice. Equipment all over the hotel, imagine sanitizers and automatic sanitizers and foot operated sanitizers all over the hotel. People wearing masks and PPEs, the kids. You got to train people how to smile with your eyes. Things are moving really, really into that level.
Yeah, it's
And
scary.
also, yeah, it's scary. And imagine you're talking on the counter reception. You don't see the expression, the warmth of the associate who's checking you in. So the right amount of dialogue delivery, I would say, will come in there. So that's where technology will be backed by human, the qualities that we'll have to inculcate in our people.
Thanks.
Yes, India is known for hospitality. And when I joined the Imperial, I had introduced Namaskar, like in ITCs. Namaste, I introduced Namaskar at the Imperial. And everybody was wondering, why is this, is this correct? But today it's helping us, So technology is definitely there. There are so many touch points in a hotel, in a room itself, there are about 60 to 70 touch points. And how can we minimize that, touch? Contact should be minimum in a room. And of course, the sanitization, it is everybody's responsibility. Everybody's a housekeeper. Everybody has to be the hygiene manager in a hotel. Every staff has to get into cleaning his particular area. And of course, certain companies, certain hotels are going in for outsourcing this exercise. And I think that is also one way. But I think overall.
Yeah, great. So what you were mentioning, Vijay, is again a balance between personalization, not overloading people with too much information, yet getting very thorough with this, right? If I may summarize.
Absolutely. I mean, but
Yeah,
the guest must gain your confidence, and that's extremely important.
Precisely. Now I'm going to Arindam. Arindam, I'm going to ask you a few specific questions, okay? Which with your detailing, you'll be able to articulate. What kind of touchless measures do you see being adopted in, say, the check-in area, in, say, a kitchen, in meeting spaces, and in conference room? These 4 areas, say, check-in area, kitchen, meeting spaces, and conference rooms.
Hello, everybody, and pleasure to be here. Specific to those areas that you mentioned, I think there are, the way that I look at it is in 2 ways. 2 priorities for hotels. One is what I would call as contactless or touchless from a technology perspective. And on the other hand, what I would call as what would be necessary from a non-technology perspective, so to speak, because it is a misnomer to believe that when we speak about touchless, we are only talking about technology. And I think that point has been made very, very valid by the previous speakers.
Sure.
So if you look at check-ins, I think, some of the technology like pre-arrival choices that you're able to make today, just like you can sort of select an airline seat, technology is today available and will be proliferating in the next few years is about, having a lot of choices pre-arrival. Check-in and check-out kiosks, I think, is a fairly well-established technology today. Room access is, an established and a well-run technology today, being adopted by various hotel companies across the world. I think app-based services, which eliminate human contact, like IRD ordering, is again very, very prevalent today. Contactless payment modes is again very obviously something that's happened in the last few couple of years, but it has sort of bounced ahead due to this pandemic. Restaurant reservation and ordering mechanisms, I think, have become contactless from an app perspective or from an online perspective. But I think it's also important to look at some of the aspects which do not use technology. And, whether it is self-service from a perspective of serving the food, whether we are looking at self-help kiosks,
Arindam, specifically to kitchens, how would things change in the kitchen?
Well, I think as an industry, we have always been way ahead in the kitchen as far as hygiene practices are concerned. And if you look at the ISO certifications or the HACCP certifications, I think we are in a big advantage as compared to any other business where we have been ahead of the game as far as hygiene practices is concerned in the kitchen. I think the two areas that we need to work on, and all companies are working on, including ours, is the supply chain management, where you need to make sure that your receiving area and the stuff that's coming from the vendor and your outreach of the vendor program is well captured in your safety and hygiene processes. And I think the other area is with regards to the people practices themselves. And we're all hoteliers, seasoned hoteliers. We know that in the past, and I'm talking about really way back in the past, we used to have hygiene issues in our lockers. We used to have hygiene issues in, our uniform exchanges and so on and so forth. So I think these two aspects, one is on the supply chain management and the other with regards to human and people practices, whether it is cafeteria, whether it is uniform exchange, whether it is locker, all that needs to come into place. Obviously, there is now more robust chemicals and processes that are coming out with the two established partners and vendors in the space of hygiene management. And that's, again, an ever-evolving space. So I think overall, we are very comfortable with the way we are going, especially with regards to kitchen.
Would you think there will be now closer monitoring by people, like, for example, cameras in kitchen to ensure that any chef coming in or cook coming in takes that time at the wash basin to wash his hands with soap and water for a few seconds? Do you think this is basic but extremely important?
I think we've all gone fairly stringent on the upgraded standards or new standards that each of our hotels have created. Taljinder mentioned about the new SOPs that we have all created, which are based on not only international best practices, but also, some of the needs of the hour. My point of view is there is a certain panic or a certain, for want of a better word, overexertion and a lot of stress currently because of the pandemic and how it's phasing out today. But I think given time, it will evolve into a certain way of life, which will not be as, stringent from a customer's perspective as it is today. But the rules of the game would have changed at an upgraded level, but it will subside into a more sort of a arrangement between what is currently happening in a very, very high panic or a high level of hygiene to what we have seen in the past, which is more personalized, more contact-based, more touch-based, more based. So I think the rules of the game would have changed, but it will come back to a certain new normal.
Excellent. I guess you're also saying that all this will become a part of our DNA in terms of imbibing these SOPs, whether it's distancing, whether it's washing your hands, whether it's sanitizing, and the customer and we would adapt and life would go on.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you so much for this articulation. Now I'm going to come to one of my favorite topics, which is design. Accor is looking at hotel design in a very big way in the future, to adapt to new styles for all our brands. And here I'm going to ask Julian, what does he think of the current scenario, keeping the current scenario in mind? What changes do you see in new hotel design, Julian, for the future across brands?
I think people's expectations of hotels continues to change constantly. I think that the biggest thing we've discovered in the last sort of 100 or so days is that we've had to insert, bolt on extra screens. We've created bigger distances between the guest and the team. And I think that's the sort of thing we're going to have to look at building into hotels in a way that it's designed, that it's incorporated in the design. So we don't have this bolt-on look to screens for creating a wider reception. I mean, for many years now, we've been fighting the architects to get them to hide the equipment. And that proved quite difficult. So I think we'll find that new designs will have to incorporate more technology, keyless entry. I saw something interesting in an elevator that you could actually connect the floor with your foot rather than having to touch the button. And I think these sort of innovations will come in. I think the important thing is that we don't destroy the design in order to make it completely safe. I think the important thing is the hotel still feels extremely welcoming. It's easy for the guests to use. It makes it a very simple process to check in, to use your room. I feel that we'll change a lot of surfaces. We'll have a lot less, a lot more easily cleanable surfaces. We'll have a lot less things that we actually have to touch and move. I mean, straight away we're seeing guest compendiums come out of the rooms. You now, at a touch of a button on your television, you can see everything that's happening in the hotel. You can order your room service through the television and through other technology. And I think this will continue to grow. And I think it will be built into the design of future hotels, where, rather than us having to install it somewhat later. We ourselves, we have both World Hyatt app and Hyatt Restaurants, which incorporates this technology. It's linked directly with the hotel, so pre-arrival, you can get your room number, you know your room's ready, you can head straight up to your room with very little contact. And I think this is the sort of thing we're going to see in hotels of the future.
Just as we are reinventing our lives and redesigning our lives, hotels would adapt. They would design. There has to be a lot of positivity, color, warmth, easy to use, for all age groups using hotels. So thank you so much, Julian. I'm going to come to Sanjay now. Sanjay, these are tough times. So I'm taking you away straight away from work. I'm asking you a personal question to a great extent. How do you maintain work-life balance between work and hotel? And coming back to work, how do you engage your staff in these times, Sanjay?
Namaste, and thank you so much, BW Hotelier, for this opportunity. Special thanks to Bhuvnesh and the entire team who was actually at the back end doing this entire WebBlast. Very, very fortunate to be part of this team. So this is basically, BC, a very, very human resource centric question. And this is, I think, out of whatever we've been discussing all this while. So before I answer this question, let me just retract back to tell you that what as the hotel we have done in terms of taking care of our guests and our associates. So the entire program of, which we call it We Care, and the commitment to clean, we have actually categorized that into 3 buckets. The first bucket being branded hotel program, in which we encompassed all the touch points of a guest journey and the associate journey. So by touch point, what do I mean? So from the main port, while you come across towards the, for a guest, when you come across up to my entrance, from the baggage scanner to the lobby, to the reception, to the elevators, and then you go up to the room or maybe restaurants. And for my associates, a similar journey like coming to the time office, clocking in your number, and then going to the locker or taking the uniform or going to the staff restaurants, So these all touch points, what a human being actually can touch have been actually recorded, and every 25 to 30 minutes, every area gets actually cleaned and sanitized in order to get away with something which we really fear. The second bucket which we have actually put our cleanliness strategy is the clinical level of cleanliness, and that's really very, very important. And the hygiene of these touch points through the chemicals, high graded chemicals which we use. And the third very, very important point is the medical focus in the heart of the house areas and wherever the associates actually travel. And like what Zubin said, because we never closed our hotel, we made sure that we kept all our associates in-house so that they are not going out, not meeting people where they can actually get, there are possibilities of danger. So they stayed back, and they're still staying back in the hotel to serve. Now, coming back to your question, we see it's really very, very important to keep all of us, including me, engaged at work. So one thing which we all did is I stay very close to the hotel. So every day I started driving down to work. You know, that's makes me really very relaxed. When you go past 25 years, you've just been coming to the hotel, you know, and then suddenly you get stopped and you are told that from tomorrow you have to only be on calls. That doesn't work. We are all operational people, you know.
Correct.
So that really engaged me while I started coming back to work. For associate, what we do is we constantly put all the communication channels open, and my HR department really plays a very, very important role in this. So by communication, I'm saying that every 15 days, we do diligently get every associate, whoever and wherever they are, into one platform, either with Zoom or Microsoft Teams, and we really communicate as to what the developments are. We talk about health, we talk about hygiene and sanitation, we talk about well-being, we talk about how hotel is doing, we talk figures, we talk a lot of things. I think that's really motivates my team. This is really very, very important. The HR team along with me, we really roll out every week one competition, you know, so wherever they are. So it could be a dance competition where, you know, these young lads, they actually create videos and they load videos, and then we have competitions, and then we have prizes to be given. So it's a big time fun. And I think that really, really motivates and keeps all of the associates really very, very engaged. Couple of other things which we have done for associates who are, and they are not very many, who are in the hotel and they are staying in the hotel, we still continue to have one day of the week where we do a good food festival. We have an exchange program where a housekeeping associate goes to the kitchen and a kitchen associate comes to food and beverage service, and a food and beverage service goes to the security, and we actually do little multi-skilling and multitasking. I think we've got really very, very good feedback from our associate. I think with all these things which we've been doing so far have really helped us engage our associate, because at this point of time, the business levels are low, but certainly it's coming up. We can see a trend of a little bit upward trend, and there will be time when we will call every associate, but at this point of time, keeping them engaged with a lot of HR related activity, I feel is really very, very important.
Fabulous, Sanjay. Very well articulated. Even in Accor, we refer to our associates, the whole department is talent and culture rather than HR many years ago, because we believe that people are not resources. At the end of the day, they are talent and culture. And that's exactly, I'm sure all the brands across people here are doing the same, but it was very, very enlightening, and I think it's fabulous. Thank you so much, Sanjay. I will now move on to Ruben. Ruben, let's talk guests. You have loyal guests, regular guests, guests coming in and out. Today, there are not too many of them around. how are you engaging with these guests, and what are the concerns, I mean, you're hearing when you engage with these guests?
Hello, good evening, everyone. Bangalore has been very different to probably Delhi and Mumbai and Chennai. We started with the lockdown with everybody, but probably because of the number of cases which were there, we kind of opened back in June, on June 8th. However, this hotel continued to remain operational. So we had certain long stay guests who stayed in the hotel, so we didn't shut the hotel completely. And we continued to make it sure that, the people who were in the hotel continued to be looked after. And of course, there was a set of team which was put into place, which was, which spent the majority of the month of April and May with that team. While, the business really slowed down and it didn't really make sense for us to operate restaurants. And of course, the government regulations didn't really allow us to, open things and keep doing things with the guests. We made it very customized and very, it was open to the guests and the team. We had times when the guests would, of course, whether it's in terms of their, the food becomes a very important part, and the chef was in direct touch, whatever they wish to do. But just to keep the team motivated, we would have cricket matches here, and the guests would be joining them, would join those people, because those are the people who were stuck in the hotel, completely away from the guests, away from the outside world, so completely like a, followed by the time when we really opened. So on the June 8th, we thought that, now things are opening up and, things will start looking better. It was quite a strange thing, because there were, the few of the guests who really wanted to come in, and they did, but it was not something which was sustaining itself. How we've handled this whole issue is, by continuously keeping in touch with our guests. We have been on call with people. We've been informing them. We've been making sure that they, our chefs have been actually online with the guests and, taking orders, telling them, helping them over the phone with their, with the cooking. So our chef goes online and does a cooking session based on the request of the guest. Post which now, over the last 1 month, when we've seen the guests coming in, there have been staycations also.
Well, that's
so we have seen, a complete kind of a cycle before the new lockdown hit us, which was a few days back, which is a week long. I have spoken to my team, and, what we have decided is to make it sure that we over communicate to the guests. There are a lot of things which guests don't know. Because of the size of the team in the hotel, it's not really a full-fledged hotel. One restaurant operational, F&B, in terms of rooms, if they're coming here, they want to know what exactly are we doing, how are we keeping them safe. And of course, it's extremely important that we get in touch with them and explain to them what are the services, how things are going to be. And that's how we've been working around with the guests.
fantastic. Thanks a lot. Yeah, that's a fair amount of engagement, and I think that is what is going to take us forward in terms of constant engagement with every brand and, touching their hearts when it's most needed.
One thing, which is quite interesting, which we saw, and maybe, it really works on the topic, which is the touchless. While we as a hotel, and we've seen this whole thing now for the last 40 days of opening, while we as a hotelier, we go extremes, and we've always been like that. As a hotelier, you would have a very hospitable outlook, but when it came to your back-end processes, you were always very clinical.
Yeah.
And that is what has happened. We've become very clinical about the COVID situation, and we want to provide the safest scenario to our guests. However, it's not the same thing with the guests. They come back expecting expecting that, the things are going to be the same. You walking into a JW, or you're walking into an ITC, or you're walking into a Hyatt, you expect a certain kind of vibrance. And when they don't find that, there is a sense of, you walk into a hotel for fun and, for a lifestyle choice, and not really just because you only want to, stay in the room. And that's quite interesting, because there were people who would, care about and would be extreme about, about how the health and hygiene was being taken care. And some of them really didn't really care.
Yes, you're right. I mean, there is a void in the glitz which we provide, but they understand that, many of them. And a lot of us who've been handling guests who are repatriating, that is another segment altogether. A lot of them have come back, they've lost jobs, they're, settling those 7 days, they're there. That's when you need to touch, and be in touch with them, do some special food and be sensitive. So fantastic. Thanks a ton. And now I'm going to come back to Taljinder. Taljinder, this is a F&B related question where your portfolio has a lot of interesting F&B in the West as well as the Taj. F&B has been one of the most important departments in a hotel. In my opinion, when you bring in people, locals as well as the locals give you the room nights. How is F&B going to be remodeled in the new normal? How are you looking at F&B the way forward?
See, Bishwajit, I think we've all spoken about how we will undertake hygiene measures and so on and so forth, and create an environment where chefs are either in residence throughout the period of the pandemic to assure quality. But let's look at it from the point of view of what is now, what is probably going to be the next. In the immediate term, we believe that restaurants and outlets which are able to create an element of trust in the mind of the customers are the ones that are going to be eventually the winners. Because at the end of the day, all of us as an industry, we are in the perfect storm. We are in a storm. We are just in different boats. It just so happens that some of us organizationally may be in a boat which is closer to the shore. So what is likely to happen is that institutions which can create trust for food and beverage are the ones which are most likely going to survive and thrive in the future. And that trust is obviously based on multiple factors. It's based on one's own heritage, one's own ability to go out into the market and evoke that element of safety and assurance and create that assurance and put that out on the market. That is of paramount importance. And then also the fact that at the end of the day, everything is not just about standard operating procedures, because one can adopt standard operating procedures, but how do that procedures create trust, and how does that trust translate into business is a multifaceted aspect in itself. So if I were to look at it, it's a multifaceted aspect because it depends on the kind of connect you've had with your guests in the past. It's the kind of connect that your guests have had with you as an operator in the current, which means have you bothered to be connected, be in communication with your guests, even though you may or may not have been operating. The second is the aspect of agility. Have you been agile enough to be able to remain connected through your food and beverage to your key clientele? If they have not been able to come to your restaurants, have you been able to take your restaurants out? And that is where we, if I were to give you a key example, IHCL took its restaurants out. Our key brands like Golden Dragon or Thai Pavilion or the Souk, they've all been taken out by way of our own created platform called Qmin. So we are not going to rely on outside delivery partners to be able to do that. But we did that because the assurance of quality and creation of trust at this point in time is of ultimate paramount importance. And when you hand this over to a partner or you hand this over to a third party, there is that doubt of quality assurance and SOP adherence that comes to your mind. So in the next, this is what is going to happen, is that brands which are able to be agile, which are able to take their food and beverage out rather than expect guests to come in, will also be the first to be able to attract your guests back.
Taljinder, my question is a little more specific. At the Taj, we've had fabulous buffets in the past. Even at the Sea Lounge, the tea buffet, all that is now a big question mark. Food displays where you walk up, chefs explain things. How is that going to change?
Yeah, so buffets in the immediate term are obviously going to be a no-no. There is the entire service aspect in the service design has to be tweaked to the aspect of either pre-plated, to be very specific to your answer, or it'll have to be a situation where guests will be served across counters with physical distancing, but by people who who are assured, who are tested, who are in residence, and who are then able to deliver the quality and the assurance that the customer may be expecting. But the aspect of buffets in the short term, I think the entire panel will probably agree with me, is in the short term out of the window. This may come back in the medium term, but in the near term, it will all be pre-plated. It will all be service across counters with physical distancing, and in some cases, where it is important, even pre-packed and takeaways,
sure.
Which will become the immediate reality.
So the food in hotels, be it a 5-star or 3-star, is normally consumed with all 5 senses. There's the visual, there's the smell, the scent, the taste. How are we going to address these 5 senses in what you address? I'm being a little more specific. How would you tackle that?
Okay, so let's see what we've done as an example in some of our iconic outlets as a preparation is obviously, firstly, there's physical and social distancing, so the seating has been reduced, right? Secondly is the aspect of how do you deliver the same quality and the same kind of experience in terms of taste and in terms of the umami that the guest expects from the brand.
Sure.
There, as I think Zubin mentioned, we have pre-tested in residence food production and service people residing in the hotel. So the third is the aspect of assurance of quality of ingredients. That is taken care of with careful procurement and careful production. And then is the aspect of service. If the people who are serving in the hotels are assured in terms of the fact that their aspect of testing has been taken care of and the aspect of continuing to reside in the hotel is taken care of, then that service delivery happens at the same or even at an enhanced level. There's no reason why the experience cannot be enhanced, because at the end of the day, the seating is reduced. The attention towards the guest can definitely and should definitely increase, and therefore the experience should even perhaps be better now than before.
Excellent. Great, because all of you have fabulous brands, be it ITC, be it IHCL, and the guests wouldn't want to lose, the 5 senses vis-a-vis these brands. So that gives us a lot of hope. Zubin, back to you. There is a very different question for you. We're looking at staycations in the future. We don't know when international planes will fly. We're looking at purchase offers rolled out by many hotel brands. We're looking at advanced bookings. What are your thoughts? Are these going to happen? When are they going to bounce back? And considering keeping touchless as the header in mind, how do you dovetail these?
BC has taken a new meaning.
Yeah.
Apart from standing for Biswajit Chakrabarti and the other Delhi version of that acronym, it's now going to be before Corona. before Corona, we had a very different kind of outlook to our business and a very different kind of expectation, very different segments of the market who we were depending on for our business. Today, when we get into our business and we're looking at the crystal ball, as it were, to try and figure out how the business is going to flow, we've realized one thing, that the only way that you're going to be able to get your business is by creating moments of trust.
Yeah.
One thing is for sure, and I know for a fact, because you're in touch with people, you're in touch with your customers, you're in touch with friends, social circles, etc. People are itching to get out. There are going to be revenge holidays. There are going to be motoring destinations are going to be the biggest hotspots when we going forward, where you can safely drive down. You don't want to drive, or you don't have a car to drive you there, we will send you a safe car, certified safe car.
So I can borrow one of your classics, Zubin, if I need to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Non-air conditioned, so it's absolutely safe. You just have to deal with the hot, sweaty Chennai or maybe Delhi. So, yeah, so as far as our customers are concerned, we are definitely looking at these kind of things within the city itself, staycations. We are talking about not just work from home, work from a hotel. Homes do not probably always afford the luxury of having a safe environment without kids screaming in the background, without a online session going on, your better half probably seeing or viewing TV or an online cooking program. You're not able to, your power issues that many people have in their house, people want to come to the hotel and work out of the hotel. So there's an opportunity there as well. So as far as staycations are concerned, that is the future. And let me tell you, BC, as far as our travel statistics are concerned, and this is information and data from Faith.
Right.
We had 11 million incoming tourists last year. But at the same time, we had 27 million outgoing and outbound.
Wow.
And even if we were able to convert 50% of those 27 million and bring them back in or keep them within the country itself, we are covered.
Sure.
We don't have to worry about the international travel not happening, about things slowing down, etc., etc. So what do we do to promote our local destinations? What do we do to promote destinations which have otherwise been ignored for so long? How do we get that consumer who has been going for his destination wedding to exotic locales around the world to equally exotic, if not better, locales within our country itself? So let's do that first. Apart from that, the hotel has to now become and has to convert itself into a cleanliness theater. We have to become a theater of trust. Absolutely. We have gone to the extent today of, everyone's going to talk about doing sanitization. Everyone's going to talk about using various solutions and hypochlorite, etc., 1% solution. But we've gone to now the extent of actually signing up with NABH. NABH is the only accreditation body which actually certifies hospitals and healthcare facilities. We have signed up with DNV for ISO certification as well. So before you know it, it's already piloting in 2 of our hotels. Before you know it, we'll be rolling this out, and we are all going to have, our hotels are going to have NABH certification, first in the hospitality industry. ITC Hotels was the first in the hospitality industry to get into responsible luxury 10 years ago. And when we did that, we made an investment there as well. We talked about going local. We talked about sustainable practices. Today, the whole world is suddenly concerned about planet Earth. And we talked about sustainable practices and about protecting the Earth 10 years back. And we've been, on a sustained basis, have been following practices which are water positive, carbon positive, solid waste generation, zero solid waste generation as well. So we've been doing a lot to actually, and I would say a lot of these investments were made keeping in mind not post-COVID economy, but keeping in mind what the world is going to look at going forward, sustainability. Sure. Today, it's all got accelerated to the extent that all this is going to hold us in good stead. So staycations, like I said, be it revenge holidays, be it getting out of the house for a break, be it wanting to just take a break from doing jhadu pocha and cleaning bathrooms. People may want to be checking into hotels, and it will be happening in many hotels where many destinations where hotels have opened. We are seeing it happening already. Unfortunately, in Chennai, hotels are not yet open. The other thing is, we see, you talked about repatriation flights. Let me tell you, on repatriation, yes, for the next few months, it's going to be a COVID economy. It's a very morbid thing to say, but the only business that we're going to get is going to be COVID related. There are some hotels that have been doing a stellar job across the country in accommodating COVID positive patients, asymptomatic. Some hotels have been accommodating healthcare workers and doctors. Many hotels have been accommodating passengers who have been coming in from abroad in different cities for quarantine facilities. That's the business that we have. Hotels at one time used to shun away from that business. And like, I mean, we know for a fact, Ruben was saying last week, they've suddenly also decided to jump onto the bandwagon. Many of our hotels stayed away from it. Many luxury hotels stayed away from it. It was a stigma attached to it. But you know, that's the future. And we must learn to coexist with this wretched disease. We must learn to understand how it is that we are going to be able to run our business and at the same time gain and ensure that confidence levels are maintained.
Thank you, Zubin. I think you've put it very well, because at the end of the day, it is the way forward. This is here to stay for a while at least. And the taboo which was there vis-a-vis this word is slowly, we're getting used to it, and we've got to adapt. It's our key source of revenue now, and there are huge opportunities right there. And once you shift into that positive mode, everything will start beginning to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Thank you so much. Vijay, back to you. I'm going to ask you sort of a philosophical question, okay, which is important. There's a race going on between saving lives, that is staying safe from the virus, and livelihood. In our case, hotels, restaurants, if they don't open, how will people earn, feed their families from? Where do we stand as hospitality? Where are we in the heap of things in this balance?
Yeah, we are in a situation where we have to keep paying our staff as much as we can. What we are doing at the Imperial, we are giving a sustenance allowance to all the employees, but obviously it's a limited amount, so that at least the basic needs are taken care of. Now, looking at the scenario in Delhi, let's look at Delhi. There was a webinar recently with the industries minister, and he said that hotels will only open when the vaccine is out. Now, that's a very, very tough situation if that is what the plans of the government are. Yet we understand the government knows better. And if that is the case, then Delhi hotels will not open for the next 6 months. Now, that's a big challenge. How are people going to survive for 6 months? It's going to be very, very difficult. Yet I'm hoping that it'll be sooner or later that they announce that the hotels can partly open, maybe with one restaurant and 33% capacity of the
like Mumbai.
Yeah, I think that will happen. I mean, logically, that should happen. If that is not to happen, then I don't have an answer for it. How long will hotels keep paying salaries, even whatever limited salaries that are being paid? Because every hotel will be facing the challenge of paying off their, their outstanding amounts, or collecting their dues at this time to get into the market and, keep trying to push your guests, your people to pay you back whatever they owe you, and you at the same time have to pay your suppliers and various other, the amounts that have to be paid on. Yet at the same time, the expenses that we are going through, there are fixed expenses, the excise, the license, the energy cost, everything is building up every day. So I don't have an answer as to what will happen, but I'm hoping that, yes, we will continue paying a sustenance allowance to our staff. And once we do look at a ray of hope with this virus, the vaccine coming in, I'm sure things will look better.
I think here I'd like to quote, I'd read a small thing about from the Prime Minister's Secretary, Vivek Debroy, something very interesting he wrote a few months back. In Greek mythology, there's a ship, which is going through a very narrow channel, and the captain is steering it through this. On the one hand is a deep gorge where the ship can just go, and on the other hand is a monster. And the ship has to go towards one of them. The monster is just picking off sailors from the deck. He chose the monster because you lose a few sailors, at least the ship goes through, which is a parallel between the economy and, survival and the pandemic. Because the pandemic has to be taken on. There will be medicines, there will be immunity. It's a way of life. We have to live with it. And I'm sure everybody listening to this and beyond would agree to a great extent.
We see many years ago, I've not ever had to do it, but I believe when you travel to Africa, you needed to get a yellow fever certificate.
Yeah, until recently we went here.
So it's going to happen again. Now to travel abroad, you're going to have a certificate saying you've been vaccinated, or at least that you're COVID-free till the vaccination happens. I'm sure that's going to happen too.
Can I also pitch in? If you read Dare to Dream, Executive Chairman
Rai Bahadur.
In 1944, during the World War, he converted the Oberoi Grand into a barracks, and that's how he earned his title. I guess it's the similar situation. We'll have to find newer ways. The stigma was there. 3 months back, it was very difficult for us to digest the fact that we can live with COVID. Should we let people come into the hotel? All kinds of things were going in our minds. And today we are taking, institutional quarantine business. There are some hotels who have already become COVID care centers. They are attached to hospitals too. I guess it's all about running the ship at the end of the day.
Sure. Thank you. Sanjay, if you could just answer in points. For touchless hospitality, which new tech has become essential for hotels? Just bullets.
I'll be really very, very brief, and I'll not make it really very long, but I think every speaker has talked about technology, how it is becoming important and how it can, whether it is replacing the human touch or it's not replacing the human touch. But one thing is really very, very certain, that technology has to be in the front runner at these times, Touching upon that, let me see if I can answer your part in points. I think first is the check-in and the checkout experiences, which has gone touchless, and there's a huge work which is done by Marriott Hotel, and it keeps coming to us every now and then. Some have already been instituted, some are on pilot. So there's a lot of things which keeps coming to us for us to implement in our hotel. So the check-in and the checkout experience, where the guest can absolutely opt for contactless check-in and go completely mobile through the mobile app or through the Bonvoy app, which we have. In fact, there are softwares which we have implemented where you can actually scan the passport, do a pre-registration, you can do your upselling, track special requests of the guest, and during the checkout, actually also do a contactless payment through a mobile, through a payment gateway or a wallet, Coming back to F&B in terms of ordering, of course, the QR coded menu has been added, and those bulky, big, nice looking menus have completely been replaced, which also has medium of payments. So that's there. Even the reg cards, registration cards, and the folios, which can be now stored really very digitally. Coming to the room, where we have those very nice looking in-room directory, that's become truly, truly digitalized. And I think what we have done in every room, we have put QR codes in every location, where the moment you scan, either you get the video of that, you can order, you can place, we don't put amenities in the room now because it has an element of touch. but you can order things. So in-room directories have been digitalized. The mobile dining through Bonvoy app is really becoming very, very prominent now, where you can actually order your in-room dining from the in-room dining menu, or be it in the restaurant, or do a packed order sitting at your home. You know, the offices and the back offices are going now completely paperless, hassle-free approvals. Now, no approvals, no requisitions has to be made and has to be signed. It can all be digitally done. Just a code or just a icon on your mobile or maybe on your laptops. Also, it helps us saving paper and a safe way of storing our documents. Digital valet, which I talked about, you know, absolutely completely paperless way of payment and no touch involved. The vendor management system, where whoever is coming to your hotel as a vendor, of course, that's been done in many of our properties even before March. The digital baggage tags are now coming very, very handy, because again, no human touch, and just a barcode and you scan it, and then the entire detail of the guest comes, and automatically the luggage goes to the room. There's something called a smart breakfast, which is a breakfast control tool mechanism, which allows guests, because the seatings in the restaurants are now minimalized and it's become lesser, it can actually tell you as a guest to come at such and such time, because the restaurant at this point of time is either busy or occupied, or there are a couple of more guests who are expected at that time. So it slates and it makes your time very, very comfortable, so that you come to the restaurant, you don't have to wait, you get a table. So that's called the smart breakfast. Also, there are many hotels, and in China, we have seen a lot of hotels where there are robot cleaners, you know, who goes from room to room, cleans the room, cleans the public area, cleans the
strangely, Sanjay, just to interject here, at the Sofitel in Singapore, we had this, about 8-9 months ago, almost a year back. We had no idea of this robots for room service, and it is working. So I guess that has a lot of use now. So.
And I think last but not the least, the entire communication is now become really very, very digitalized. You know, one can view your contact books. You know, you can push notification. You can completely direct talk and communicate.
What happens to people who are not so digitally savvy? Some of the older people who are uncomfortable with their phones and tablets. So what, I mean, is this the way of life? Is this here to stay?
Well, it is going to stay for some time at least, but I think even old people are really getting now very, very digital savvy, you know. In fact, my dad's old, but I see him using WhatsApp, you know, so he's also trying to cope up with the same thing, or maybe the Outlook. So I think it's coming into the main bloodstream of everyone, be it the age, you know, be it a kid, be it people like us, or be it elderlies, you know. Yeah. So that sums up to whatever I think a hotel is, or every brand is doing, to digitalize everything, so that ultimately it becomes as less touch as possible.
Right. Of course, the old methods like, you know, a menu in a restaurant, a stand-up menu against the wall is also touchless. So, you know, one would have to bring in those and, you know, have a healthy balance again. Balance is key on all fronts, in my opinion. Julian, I'm going to combine sort of two questions for you. Gaining back consumer confidence in restaurants and in socials like weddings. If you could articulate, how is that going to happen?
Well, I have to say, I always think that hotels are probably one of the safest places. I mean, if you look at hospitals and the amount of effort they put into cleanliness, then second to them is really a hotel. There's a huge amount of effort that all the brands, all the independents put into making sure that the guest has a safe and hygienic experience. I mean, over the last 100 days, we've seen a huge amount of social media rollout from all the brands, all the hotels showing their new normal, their new procedures, and what they're doing to ensure they're keeping their guests safe and when they're in the hotel. For instance, here with us at Hyatt, we've teamed up with GBAC, the Global Biorisk Advisory Council. So they've put together a special training that all our staff are attending online and getting certified. So we've taken the sort of way, we've literally re-onboarded every member of staff within our hotels in the new norm, the new things we're following. And I think the confidence that the guests will get from seeing these videos, seeing these social posts, when they actually come back into the hotels and they see what's happening within the hotel to keep them safe, keep them hygienic. A lot of hotels have reduced it down and focus on particular touch points, which I think is because it gives a huge amount of confidence to any guest coming in, knowing that whether they break the seal on their room, they know that it's fully sanitized. I mean, we're going as far as all our rooms now. We have sort of two teams. We have a team that cleans the room, takes out all the dirties, and then a completely different team that comes in and does the sanitizing and puts the fresh linen and etc. into the rooms. So the two don't cross. There's a huge amount of effort from all the brands that have gone into creating a safe environment and a new norm. I think events is going to be much more complicated because you're relying on, there's a huge human element of the guests. And it's very easy for you to say that everybody's got to keep a sort of 18 square feet of distance around them when they're actually moving around and they're within the function, they're meeting relatives they haven't seen for a long time. It's very difficult to control that as a hotel. And also from a hotel point of view, we want to make sure that our team and staff are kept safe at all times. So getting that balance in events is going to be very difficult. I mean, reminding people to wear their masks and keep their distance, making sure that you limit the numbers. It's very easy to say, but it's quite difficult to build in. I mean, we're very fortunate. We've got a fantastic project here in the Hyatt Regency in Delhi, which is the Mansion, which basically we took buffets out, and that's years ago. So we haven't been doing that. Everything is being with the open kitchens, and there's been no sort of self-service. So we're able to sort of use that now as a promotion to drive that sort of business. And I think that's the way it's going to go long term. You're not going to see the self-service buffet in the way it was before. So I think building guest confidence, the biggest worry with guest confidence is we're talking about all these things, we're putting out some fantastic pictures and videos, but we live in a world of social media, and it's going to be very easy for a guest to come in and capture us doing the wrong thing on social media because of one slip up. And I think building this new norm into muscle memory, so they do it continuously, like many years ago when we taught them to say namaste and look in somebody's eyes and smile, we're now having to teach them all these hygiene and well-being things. This also has to become muscle memory, so that 100% of the time we're delivering that care to our guests, and our guests can have confidence in our products and understand that we have their best well-being at heart. And I think that's extremely important because we don't want to lose the warmth that hospitality industry has, separate people so much.
No, I think you've put it very well, because in terms of, say, social media, it's always been there. Whether there's a complaint or whatever, or a praise, it's up there in social media anyway. So this is one more thing which we would add on, and we'll have to tackle that. And what you rightly put, and all my colleagues here, whether it's Zubin or everybody, this, like Accor has All Safe. We've tried that with Bureau Veritas and AXA. So these are brands which will work with our brands to ensure that we are well calibrated, we are well rehearsed, and when we deliver, it is as safe as possible. So All Safe is what our route is. So it's a similar story everywhere, and the philosophies are the same, but as hoteliers, in the end, we want to deliver that warmth and genuine safety. The genuineness is what we're looking for.
Yep. We call it reassure.
Arindam to round up. Sorry, you wanted to say something, Zubin?
No, we call it reassure.
Yes.
And that's a very powerful statement to make.
Reassure.
And again, accompanied with the Namaste logo right there. So we are giving that assurance to that guest, and that's what it's going to be all about, building that trust.
I agree. I'm going to request you to round this up with a very important question. What are the major changes in your professional life now and as a professional, which all of us can take a leaf out of? So this will be my final question before we open it up for questions with Bhuvanesh's permission. So if you can round this up for us.
Look, I think as far as our personal lives are concerned, one of the fact is that on the one hand, you are boxed in at home with your family. You have a responsibility towards your own self and your own family. And so obviously for all of us, that becomes a very, very big priority in order to make sure that, if we were to lead from the front, we first have to ensure that we are at the top of our health and maintain that with our immediate family. But we also cannot forget that all of us in some form or fashion are responsible for a business, and a business which carries along with it a numerous number of people and their livelihoods. And so obviously at this point of time, it's a juxtaposition of what your personal responsibilities are and what you can do with the time that you get because you're not going home. But how can you be creative? How can you be out of the box? How can you really reinvent the whole mechanism of how we are operating our hotels today in order to stay ahead of the game? And I think the other aspect that we also need to be very, very conscious of is, and I say this to all my general managers, the first 2-3 months was actually easier because everything was shut, nobody was open, and we were all waiting and we were hoping that the first 21 days is all that is going to be impacted. And as things unfold right now, we realize that there are various levels of impact that each of our destinations are having. And, as things open up, we also realize that there are certain areas that are doing relatively well. We are probably more optimistic on those markets, and then there are some which are not so optimistic. And the point that I'm trying to make is that while we live for the day and maintain our health and maintain the health of the business and the people we work with, I think a large part of our effort and our intent is in the future and how we can save the businesses in the future, how we can reinvent the business in the future. How can you as the organization be the first preferred choice when business is going to be scarce and coming through in the first few months of the opening? And as all of our esteemed colleagues and panelists mentioned, each one of the brands, including ours, we're doing these strategic planning with regards to certifications, with regards to pillars of hygiene and audits and so on and so forth. But and I think that's taking a lot of our time to ensure as responsible people leading responsible businesses and their livelihoods. We need to get back on our feet as soon as possible, bring livelihood back to the people who unfortunately lost them, and continue to grow from where we stopped, because all of us know that we had a fantastic 2019 and we were looking forward to a great 2020. So that's what basically we are doing to just sum up, keep our personal health and the health of the family in order, make sure that we carry the business and the people currently as we go through this process, which includes in my case and many of our other panelists are owners. But more importantly, prepare for the future, because that's what is going to sustain us and our businesses.
Thank you so much. I think it's so well put. And I like the part where the endeavor would be to, restore everybody's livelihoods, save our ships together. At the end of the day, it's a very small industry across the world. And yet there's so many people dependent on it. So thank you very much to all the panelists. and everybody at BW Business World. Bhuvanesh, now we're going to take some of the questions here. You can see some of the questions which have come up.
So we have time, BC. I don't know who's going to take this. This comes from Mr. Arun Singh, who heads the IHM in Mumbai.
Okay.
If you're all seeing it in the chat box, I'd like to know what additional subjects in teaching content do we bring on into our course for online classes to be introduced till the situation improves, and how to keep the morale of students high in this period of job loss.
Who would like to take this question?
Can I take it, Vishwajit? Because, you know, also one of the hats that I wear, Bhuvanesh, is the president of the IHM Pusa Alumni Association.
Excellent.
And Mr. Menon, who heads Marriott for Asia Pacific, is also a Pusa alumni. And today in the morning, we had a conversation with faculty and students of IHM with Mr. Menon. And so the question that has been asked by the IHM principal of Mumbai is fresh in my mind from today's conversation in the morning with Mr. Menon. And I would like to just repeat what he said from two perspectives. You know, one, from the perspective of what additional programs and courses that we can do at this point of time, I would say there is enough knowledge and information out there with regards to hygiene and hygiene practices, touchless practices, and, you know, all the SOPs that are there now with regards to managing, you know, the COVID pandemic. So I think what should be the focus would be more on looking forward, educating and learning during the time when there are, you know, offer letters given, but assignments not started. I think there is a lot of angst in the students today and the people who have recently passed out. So I think there should be more developmental programs. There should be more looking forward programs. You know, 6 to 8 months in a career of 40 years is not really that big when you look at it at our age. So I think that's the focus that we should probably be doing in terms of encouraging the young students. But one of the things that struck me, which I would like to share, is that he did mention about, you know, certain aspects that are not covered in the hotel management curriculum today, which include stuff like entrepreneurship, you know, startup technology, and, you know, revenue management and stuff like that, which are very relevant at the level of, you know, operating businesses and hotels, but could possibly be looked at from a curriculum perspective in colleges.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just add to that, Arindam. I'll just add to that. I think social media as a subject, I mean, everyone is very savvy. The kids are extremely savvy. But how do you leverage social media for the business? There's an opportunity in a subject like that as well. We definitely we could look at that.
True.
Okay, so the next question comes from PK Mohan Kumar Taljender Taj. You remember PK? Mohan Kumar.
Yes, absolutely.
The whole industry knows PK.
Everybody does.
Oh, right. Yeah, so he asks, first of all, he makes an observation. The panel is of all accomplished professionals heading a SBU while holding a GM of flagship hotels. Question: how would you review the concept of empowerment of general managers with general management, which in the new norm means allowing the general manager to take risks, fail, but dare to do it? Taljender, you may want to take it up.
So I've actually not understood the question.
He says general managers are empowered. Empower them, let them take risks, let them fail, but then let them do it.
Yeah, but I don't think it has been any different in the past. So from the past to the new normal, I think general managers of the future only need to be very conscious of the reality that the risks in decision making that they take cannot result in violation of safety and violation of health concerns towards our key reason for existence, which is our customers. So empowerment cannot and should not in our industry keep that out of the focus at any point in time in the name of risk-taking ability. That's my view on this.
All right. So thank you. There's another question from him. He's got two of them back to back. This one is more on F&B. Reality Check is a standalone of iconic restaurants will continue to attract high-end diners from the locals as well as the hotel residents, guests as well. Question, oh come on, it keeps jumping. Where is he gone? All right. Do any here have thoughts on a disruptive idea to win back these city diners to the in-house restaurants? Perception is that chef entrepreneurs are luring hotel diners to high street, upmarket, specialty restaurants, competing in quality of experience and superb quality.
You know, I have a view on that, sorry, is that, and I was alluding to that when we spoke to, when Biswajit posed that question. In the short term, in the near term, and in the pre-vaccine era, it's going to be very difficult for individual restaurateurs to be able to so-called lure back guests. We've seen that. I mean, a couple of my favorite restaurants like Le Caprice and Poland Street Social in London have shut down primarily because a lot of these businesses operated on a triage of property, investment, brand valuation, rollout, so on and so forth, right? So it's very difficult for them to survive when their underlying costs are huge, and the premise of making a business successful is brands and valuation in the current era. On the other hand, restaurants which are based on reputation, trust, delivery, heritage, lineage, and assurance of quality, in-house quality, will find it far more easier to survive this current period and continue to survive. So very, very difficult in the short term, in a nutshell, to say that individual restaurants will lure guests away. I think this is a perfect opportunity. I don't want to sound opportunistic, but I think this is an opportunity where the hotel industry as a whole can collectively come back and get the guests back into our restaurants, which have always served quality cuisine in a quality environment.
I would like to add up, I think it's also about the economics of it. At the end of the day, if you're running a hotel and you're already serving guests in the hotel, then you have you're operational and you don't need to put in extra. Unfortunately, for a lot of these freestanding restaurants, even if they're highly reputed, it's very difficult for them to look at the the overheads costs, and also to get in the workforce, because right now the situation is that in spite of the fact that people are wanting to open the restaurants, the workforce has vanished.
I guess we are backed by rooms, which freestanding restaurants aren't. That makes a big difference, because we can multitask people. People from even housekeeping can adapt to restaurants. We have room revenue going in to sustain us, so we're blessed that way.
I think BC, just if I may come in here, I agree with Diljit. The hotels do not face that challenge. Many restaurants in Delhi have shut down. At least hotel restaurants have not shut down. We are waiting to open, the moment we get a green signal. And okay, maybe if I open my coffee shop, maybe I will not open a spice route immediately. Maybe I'll offer some of the meals in the coffee shop itself, some of the items from spice route, so I can give a variety of, to the guests. And they are really looking forward. I get a lot of calls from my guests. When are you opening the spice route? So I'll definitely, I'm very confident that we will definitely come back very soon in this.
At the same time, we cannot push the guest. We cannot decide when they're going to come back. We need to earn their trust. We need to show them what we are doing and demonstrate. But till then, we should be available for them. We should be able to, and if they cannot come, like it was said earlier, if they cannot come to your restaurants, what are you doing to get your restaurants to them? And everybody has now jumped onto this bandwagon. Some people are preferring to go with a third party.
Zubin,
some people are doing it individually.
Getting your restaurants to them, like eating in your Bukhara and getting Bukhara food delivered at home, there's a world of a difference. Eventually, we need to get them here.
We have to keep that spark alive. that dal is still going to keep that spark alive.
Yeah.
Or that one kebab which will travel is going to keep that spark alive. So just
So
keep
one
that the
last
wait will be worth it.
So he says, has any hotel explored the question of face recognition for various touch points, opening guest room doors, bill payment, and the works?
Yeah, I mean, right when you take attendances, face recognition, I think, and eventually that would be a part. The way technology, AI is developing, face recognition, eyeball recognition would definitely, it would leapfrog. In my opinion, that would happen.
I think it's also about the privacy issues. I'm not very sure if that is going to be a norm. However, like what Marriott is doing with the mobile check-ins, so you get stuff in your mobile and you can use that. I'm not sure if the privacy laws across the countries will allow a facial recognition or database to be stored across, in any way.
I think if I may add to one more perspective with this question is that whenever we evaluate technology and buy softwares, it is always to do with the balance of the cost, because those costs are really very, very huge. I think this entire, and then we evaluate with the business and the returns it gives. So I think something which is really very affordable, doable, and gives you instant result would be much more into action than to go into some high-end software where the investments are very, very high and the returns will be staggered to a lot of years. So
until someone like Amazon or Apple comes in and does something on the phone, whereby at that cost you can open your hotel door.
Absolutely.
We'll leave it to them. But you're absolutely right, Sanjay and Ruben.
I think we've done almost an hour and 40 minutes of the show, Basically. So
yes, so thank you. I'd just like to thank the BW team. We have Mayank, we have Ajit, we have Raghav, Amit, Sonakshi, Ratnesh, Vanshika, Abhilasha, Deepak, Prema, Shruti, Kavi, and of course, His Highness Mr. Khanna himself.
Well, let me tell you.
So while BC, while you've done the thank you, I would like to just add one more thing. I think a huge commendation to Bhuvnesh and the team. Just before this webinar started, while it was announced that this is the 9th hospitality-related webinar, this is the 86th webinar that BW has conducted, and I think that's huge. In about 100 days, that was
we need to give him a big hand there.
So tremendous job, well done, fabulous.
Keeping everyone busy.
Stand up, wrong parts of my body will be seen, so I will sit and we'll clap. But and I'm sure Dr. Anurag Batra is somewhere there in the back, and he doesn't never usually shows himself, but I'm sure he's on board as well.
In these pandemic times, his old habits die hard. He's wearing his suit and shorts below, so he's not going to stand.
I think we should not end this session without one more thank you to Biswajit. Thank you so much for moderating this session. It's been really enlightening. I think by far this has been a very, very good session. Very, very easy flow. Everyone, I think, spoke from their hearts. No one even saw any paper or anything. So those were really very, very good questions. The way
I have a list of issues. Taljinder is saying something.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of say that, it would be really nice to perhaps end by saying that as an industry, let us also see how we can come together.
Yes.
And, together as various brands with our own communication mechanisms, with our own loyalty bases, with our own systems and processes, let us all come together to get the business back. Let us all come together to gain that confidence of the guests and the mind space of our customers and get it back and get it rolling like never before. So let's all join together at some, at this juncture and do it.
Thanks. And Sanjay, thank you so much.
I'll take a couple of 2 to 3 minutes to close this. Before I thank you all, some basic hygiene. We've got the women's show, which comes in 3 days or 4 days from now on Tuesday, same time, 4:30 to 6 p.m. Some of the finest PR and com ladies led by the almost famous Deepa Harris, Rakhi Lalwani, Khushnuma Kapadia, Rajshri Sen, Amisha Gudgutia, and somebody else will also be walking in soon. So that's a show you should all look forward to. And our Indian Hospitality Summit and Awards is going to happen from the 31st of August to the 4th of September. It is huge. It will be over 5 days. Dare I say it's the biggest in the world? Yes, most certainly the biggest in India. 9 keynote sessions, 16 panel discussions have already become 18. There are 120 speakers. There are 5 juries, which are almost 50 of them. There are more than 100 awards. So we have 180 speakers over 5 days. And look forward to it. The nominations open tonight, tomorrow morning. They shut 31st. You should all come in, file your nominations. We owe it to this industry. This is for all the work that you've done from the 1st of January 2019 to the 31st of December 2019, plus what you've done in the past 4 months during the lockdown. That'll also have, and that'll also have a lot of weightage. Some of the biggest names in the industry are in the jury. We shall be announcing them over the next 2 days. The biggest names mean some of the biggest names, and none of them are serving hoteliers now, right? So that be that. BC, thank you for hosting us all.
Thank you.
Right?
Thank you.
You've been a wonderful host. You came at short notice. You've done a wonderful job. Despite your short frame, you've delivered a big result.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Been wonderful seeing you live on screen and hearing what all you had to tell us. You hit the iconic Taj. Who doesn't know the hotel? Vijay bhai.
Thank you so much for having me there.
Vijay, thank you for being there. Imperial. I still have to pick up my meal there soon, maybe at the Silk Route. White Regency, Julian Ayers. I hate to pay those parking tickets to go to Bikaji. So next time I have to call. Yeah. Sanjay, thank you. Thank you for being there. It's been wonderful having you over here. You're one hotelier who's been working right through. I'm sure everybody has. Arindam Da, thank you for being there. It's truly a pleasure sharing any space with you on the screen. And Zubin, now don't pull one on me. You've already taken BC down, right? So thank you. Thank you for being there. We'll see you soon again. Ruben, thank you, my dear. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you.
I hope Bangalore treats you well. Thank you all. Thank you again. God bless you. Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. And namaste.
Thank you.
Thanks for the plug, Bhuvnesh, of the namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you.